Hi there, Midland, Texas. Buddy Webb. I got a pretty good video that I'm going to do today, which is December 20th, 2019. And 8 years ago today, on the 20th, the police were called to my house. And I think that's a very important night, and I'm going to tell that story of what happened. I'm going to show you some evidence on that. And there was a lot of things going on during that time. My mom died on December 7th, and I've got a video on that. And there's still unanswered questions on my mom's death over in Hobbs, New Mexico. And then right after that, the ex-wife threatened suicide. The police were called, and I've never done a video on that, but there's a story behind that. And where I got a call from the guy named Greg in Nebraska, and she's the one that, if you remember, that told her to try to extort $1,800 a month from me. And I have a video on that called "Follow the Money." If I didn't pay her, apartment for life, then she's going to tell everybody I'm crazy because this home is rigged and the crimes that are committed against me. And then I didn't pay, and then she later called me crazy. And life destroying lies were told in court under oath, and I have proof of that, along with her childhood grade school friend, Midland Detective Rosa Rodriguez. And so, anyways, that happened, and then right after that happened is the police were called on the 20th, okay, and then that was the last straw for me of this long 3-month marriage. There, it become obvious that she, knew what was going on here with these crimes. And I told her I was done. I wanted a divorce. And so our separation was right after Christmas, right before the New Year's, around the 29th, 30th, somewhere in there. A few days after that, my son comes down, and his family, while they're here, his granddad dies. And that was, I've never done a video on that either, and that was interesting. There were some things that said, and the timing was real odd. When he got here, he's like, "Dad, we're gonna get to the bottom of this," and I felt like I finally had family that was backing me up, because I had people breaking my house for over a year, and it wasn't even a couple of weeks later I'm ambushed and shot and left for dead in my house. And the truth is, my son's never been back to my home, and I hadn't even talked to him in a few years, and for no known reason. And once again, somehow I think my people in my family have information. I'm not saying they tried to kill me, but possibly they've been threatened, by these criminals that are very powerful criminals. There's no doubt about that. And then on the 14th of the month in January was the home invasion. I stopped by putting electricity on the doorknob, and then on the same day, a landman attorney in town named Matt Hyman, young guy, 33 years old, dies. Of a heart attack, surprise heart attack. And electricity causes a heart attack. It's suspected this landman are some top suspects for oil show parties. The sex trafficking and all that stuff, and the underground facility and all that. And so the question was asked: did Matt Hyman die in my hallway? And I've got a whole video on that, and then it's real possible, and that could lead up to a motive for murder. His friends are upset and blaming me, because they broke into my house, tried to murder me, and then their friend got killed, and if they reported that, then they go to prison because they're breaking into a private home trying to kill an innocent person, and then they're trying to hide the fact they got $1 million underground facility they're having oil show parties and murdering little girls underneath. Anyways, that was on the 14th of the month, and then we find out that it's believed that on the 17th of January that another guy was shot with a shotgun in the foot, okay, and they used his x-rays and faked mine. We have triple proof my x-rays are fake to the hospital, but based on evidence found, there was they used the x-rays of a guy that was shot on the 17th, and the question's been asked: did this other guy getting shot give these doctors that are quote unquote killing for profit that the ex-wife told me about the idea of how to shoot me and kill me and call it an accident and collect the extra $500,000 accidental death insurance? And then the day of the murder attempt, 128, I got a video on that. And so I also have videos on the medical crimes, and with the triple proof and all that. This video is about the 20th, okay? And what was going on that day? Of course, I was married for 3 months. People were breaking this house, and and when I first got married, she was more pretending, I know the first night she stayed here, uh, uh, slept here, woke up the next day, and she tells me, I heard somebody crawling across the attic. And I said, see, I'm telling you, that's what I'm telling you. Yeah. And then all through this time, I'd come home and she'd tell me her daughter, these stories, people. And there was no doubt that's true because it was going on while I'm here. There's people breaking this house. There's people in the attic. There's people that get into the main area of the house. And now, we know they're under the house as well, with $1 million underground facility in the backyard. Okay. But then it just kind of started getting clear that, wait a minute, she ain't on my side, and so on December 20th, on this day, I come home from work, and I'm looking for my handgun. I can't find it, and I'm looking everywhere, and I'm searching drawers and everything, and I'm concerned because there's people breaking in my house. I have been for over a year at that time, and I'm people breaking your houses are dangerous. That's all there is to it. They're committing a felony. They go to prison for many years. A burglary of habitation, and is a serious crime. But I finally found that gun, and so that was all over. But really, by that time, she's on the phone talking to somebody or texting or whatever, and she calls the police here. Okay, there really was no reason whatsoever to call the police. There wasn't. And so here I'm waiting around for the police to show up, and I'm going through my text messages on my phone here, and there were some just crazy messages from her. There really was, and I felt like this is going to show the police exactly what's going on, how crazy this is, Here, just look what she's been writing me and what she said, And so here's this police come up, and they come to the door. And I walk around, and I got my phone in my hand, okay. And I said, "Hi, how you doing?" I'm nice, And keep in mind, I'm a 27-year company man, homeowner, never had a felony, right? I moved to Midland, volunteered to lead United Way Drive. I felt like it might not be perfect, but I give back to my community, model citizen, whatever. And I said, here, let me show you what's going on. And I hold my phone out, and when I do, he slaps the phone out of my hand, handcuffs me in my home, and then takes me outside roughly, okay, and walks me down the street in the dark, around the corner where his car's parked. Okay, so he's put me in the back of his car, and he opens the door up, and when I'm fixing to be set down, of course I'm handcuffed, right? There's a bag of marijuana or pot laying in the seat, a baggie. Okay, well, it become real clear what was going on, right? I'm fixing to be framed for drugs. Okay, that was just real clear. Okay, so I'm my first thought, don't touch it, because I'm like, don't put any fingerprints on this baggie, because they're trying to frame me, And so and I sit down, and another police officer shows up, and the second police officer is wearing eyeglasses, and I had seen him a week earlier or so when the ex-wife had threatened suicide. Okay, and at Caldera Apartments, and there should be a police record on that, and we later, and there's a story goes along with that, because she was required by the police to go see her psychiatrist. I went with her to that appointment, and then while I was sitting there in front of the psychiatrist, I find out that this wasn't the first time that she'd done that, and I didn't know that until I was there. And he reminds her of the time with the bikers, and then he reminds her of the time she felt so guilty for getting her daughter involved in prostitution. Okay, I later told my attorney that for the protective order hearing, and we subpoenaed them records from the doctors, but the district attorney, assistant district attorney Jewett, objected, and I started to say it in court, and let the truth come out, but the district attorney didn't want the truth to come out. That protective order hearing wasn't about the truth at all. You know what I mean? It was a protective order filed by the ex-wife that's alleged to be involved in the murder attempt of my life that I hadn't seen her talk to in a year and a half, lived 100 miles away. That's the facts of the case, But anyway, back to this night. That police officer was one of them police that was there. I recognized him. He recognized me. And we get in the car. What's this about, Mr. Webb? And I'm telling them that these repeated breaking into the house. I believe they're connected to prostitution, human trafficking, the truckers out back, and all that. And I have evidence. I'll show you. No, I don't want to see evidence. I told them about my mom had just died. And so basically, I'm told we better not be called back over here again for this stuff, And then this stuff was me calling the police, reporting burglars at my house, felonies being committed against me. I'm a homeowner. They're breaking in my home. This is burglary habitation. That's crime at your house, crime at my house. It's crime everywhere. You don't break into a man's home. This is my castle, right? And I have the right to protect my home, of course, just like you do. And so, anyways, I come back in the house and they leave. Okay. Well, one thing, the text messages that were on my phone that I was going to show them are deleted. Okay, right? And isn't that ain't that interesting, right? Here, let me show you this. Well, boom, they do all this crap. And that's deleted. Of course, they went in and talked to her, and I'm sure they looked at them and then deleted the evidence. Got to get rid of that, tampering with the evidence. Been so much evidence, tampering and obstruction of justice. It's amazing, But anyway, they leave, and that's when I told them, and I told the ex-wife too. I said, I'm done. This is over. I'm cutting my losses. You go back to your apartment with no furniture, and you have your life, and I have my life, and I've got people breaking my house, and I've got to deal with that. You're not on my side. And so there's a couple things that she said that right now are very important. And one thing she said is, we're creating a document trail on you. Well, that's a very the police had just left. We are creating, creating a document trail on you. Okay. And that's what I'm going to name this video, document trail. Okay. And I believe I found that document trail. And I'll tell you about it. And the other thing she said is, Danny said, we'll just take your house. Okay. So my brother's name's Danny, and I hadn't talked to him in several years. But he says he doesn't know anything about the crimes here, but he's not going to help me. And he didn't say that. Okay, and so either there's another Danny or my brother's lying to me, one or the other. But whoever Danny is, he's major involved in trying to take my house, and obviously by murdering me, right? Now, I think we can agree with that. And so whoever, but the ex-wife needs to tell us who Danny is, and so we don't know that. But then back to the document trail. After I was shot, and I get all the police reports, and what I noticed is there's comments made less than an hour after I'm shot that are called XREF, reference comments. And there's 3 of them I found on 3 different police reports spanning a year, okay? And they reference a gun or whatever. And they're made within 22 seconds. Okay, so you got 3 XREF comments made within 22 seconds. Okay? Well, I'm thinking this out, and I'm thinking, there's no way any police officer could go through every police report, read every police report, and then make them comments in there in the 22-second period unless they looked at it in advance, unless they had pre-planned a document trail. Okay, I'm thinking there's the document trail right there, and it's because based on the timestamps of they had already planned in advance. As soon as I'm dead, click this one, click this one, click this one. That's done. Okay, he accidentally killed himself. Look, there's a gun here, and we got a document trail. See, and so that's what it's looking like to me. 39 days later, I'm ambushed and shot inside my home. Catch secret police on camera. Takes 6 years to get them identified. Now that I got the police report, I'm showing that there was 5 of them, Davis, Dickey, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale, that were at or inside my home, and they wasn't seen arriving on the security camera. That told me they were under my home. Somebody under my home tried to shot me, right? So they tried to kill me. My phone lines were cut. I screamed for help. They shot me and left me to die. Listen to me scream for help, wait me to die. And the number 1 suspects right now is police tried to murder me in my house, and I'm the one that was reporting crime. Okay, here I'm the homeowner trying to make Midland a safer place, right? So these criminals don't come break in your home. We arrest them, they won't break in your home, right? And or they don't come in your home and shoot you by surprise. Okay, and so document trail. And the other thing you think about is Mike Lawhon died, the previous homeowner, right before I moved in, a couple weeks, and they told me it was an accident, and I found evidence that's led me to believe that wasn't no accident. I mean, it's real clear after what happened to me. $1 million underground facility backyard. Ricky Ronaldo saying there's tunnels under this house. There's been 10,000 felonies, burglary of habitation, theft of services committed here, etc. And Mike Lawhon didn't die by accident. And so there was things I found. The door got kicked in the month that he died. The back door. I have proof of that. I mean, when I got a picture of when I first looked at the house, the door was fine. And then 28 days later, when I met the home inspector here, there was a hole where the doorknob was. Somebody had brute force entered that house during that month. Mike Lawhon died, Another thing, the neighbor told me twice that he died in this house. But his death certificate says he died in Fort Worth. The Odessa American posted a death notice on October 14, 2008, said he died in Fort Worth. 4 days later, they posted a second death notice, changed the location of death, say he died at his residence, just like the neighbor said. Okay, that wasn't no accident. It didn't accidentally, we changed put a revised death notice, changed the location of death. Okay, but keep in mind his death certificate says he died in Fort Worth. I fully believe he was murdered here. They kicked in the door. They gave him a shot or whatever, and that's kind of interesting. They gave him a shot. I mean, he was overdosed, so I'm thinking, here's these doctors again, right? And then they took him over to Fort Worth and to his mom's house, whatever, and they was covered up, and then they sold the home to the next sucker, right? That's moving in from out of town and doesn't know any different, right? The 25-year company man, that leads the United Way drive for his company, and then 2 years later, I figured out the home's rigged, right? And I start calling police, and here we are, crippled for life, living under a death threat, and crime still being committed against me. I'm gonna show you the evidence of this, and I think you'll find it real interesting. Buddy Webb. All right, now we're on the evidence portion here. I want to show you here real quick. I drew up just a little timeline, and the number of suspected deaths, murders are just incredible, and I really believe there's just a ton more of murders been covered up. I mean, there's the ones I hear even like. The secret police that murdered his wife, Mike Naylor, the sheriff deputy that died. He was the second one that showed up, not on the police board. He's dead. There's just so many of them. They're suspected murders, but here, 3 months before I transferred into town and Mike Lawhon died, Rini Escobar Sanchez goes missing. He's still missing from Odessa. It's suspected that maybe he's even buried in west side of my lawn. I got a video on that. Mike Lawhon dies, just right before I move in here, and got videos on that. There's the oil show party murder on 2010. I was told about a young girl being murdered there. And then we get in all right here where I'm talking about in December 2011, and I mean right before all these things happen. My mom dies under with still unanswered questions, and then in between that time, just a week later or so, the ex-wife threatened suicide, and that's when I find out from the doctor where she was feeling guilty about getting her daughter involved in prostitution. I'm gonna show you the court a court record on that, or part of the transcript. And then right you can see it was only 2 weeks later. It was December 20th, and that is today, 8 years ago. Police called. That was when I was told a document trail was created on me. That's what I'm going to talk about in this video. And then we separated right after that. 9 days later, right after Christmas, my son comes down. While he's here, he's only here for just not even a day, and his granddad mysteriously dies. That was kind of unusual. And then. And Don Calloway was his name. Don was married to Ann Calloway, okay, so that was his grandma. And then later, my dad, because remember my mom died up there, my dad ends up marrying Don Calloway's wife, or his grandma, Ann Calloway, And I wasn't invited to the wedding, and Ann told me that was her, because of her. And interesting, Ann and Don built the home that I lived in, the Hobbs, and I wondered if it wasn't rigged. I've got a video on that too, talking about the Hobbs home. Okay, moving on the Matt Hyman on the 14th of January dies. That's the same day at the same time that I put electricity on my doorknob, stop a home invasion. And then we believe another guy was shot in the foot with a shotgun on the 17th. We don't know who that is, but based on some medical records, that's what it looks like. They used that guy's x-rays to fake mine. And I got videos on that. And then the day of the murder attempt in it, and I've got many videos on that one too. Okay. And so, but here I'm going to talk about December 20th, which is this one. This is the police report, okay? And I'm going to show you here. Here's the date, okay? December 20th. You can see it right there at 7:18 is when the ticket was open. And really there was two of them. There's two of these reports. And, you know, and I think that was part of being that there was a double reports. The part of this was they were planning, you know, and you know, obviously police corruption, and there was planning in advance. Well, here we're going to do this, and before they even got to my house, you know, I mean, obviously they know about $1 million underground facility, you know, and this home being rigged, and I mean, it was hosting international oil show parties, right? And so, you know, complaint advisor husband, Buddy Webb, came home and told wife that someone's been getting in their house and stealing stuff. She'd been letting them in, and that firearms gone, claimed that she stole it. Advisor husband's going crazy and currently being treated for ADHD because that makes you crazy, right? You know, and compliant is required 1017, which just means that the police showed up at the house. And so that's absurdity already. Okay, so here's the police officers, Blake Bush and Trent Sellers, and I already told the story of where, you know, I was putting the back of one of these police cars with a baggie of marijuana already laying in the seat. So the threat to frame me for drugs was real clear. And then I was told we better not be called over here again for this stuff. Okay, and this stuff is repeated burglaries in my house that I believe are connected to a human trafficking. Okay, and a human trafficking ring and human trafficking going on. And so then I'm told, you know, that when the police leave, the ex-wife tells me we're creating a document trail on you. Okay. And, you know, and I tell you what, when I first looked at this house, my realtor, Janine Pruitt, tells me that the previous homeowner, Mike Lawhon, was incarcerated for drugs. And that's when I later I thought back and I thought, I wonder if they framed him. Okay, now that would make sense, wouldn't it? They created a document trail on Mike Lawhon, and I moved in from out of town. There was no reason for me to suspect, oh, Mike Lawhon didn't die by accident and some dirty cop framed him and there's $1 million underground facility and they're involved in human trafficking and also parties. I mean, nobody would ever think that, right? I thought he died by accident, right? And then the other thing that I was seeing, 1096 means mental, crazy, whatever. These are life-destroying lies told to cover up crimes. And I've documented homeowners, you know, all over Midland, Odessa, Texas, and other states. And the modus operandi for this crime ring is to call the crime victims crazy, to destroy their lives with life-destroying lies being made up, so that they can commit burglary, theft, murder, human trafficking, etc. Okay. And then this police report was done in 2011, but look at the date. That's 1/28/2012, okay? That's the night I'm shot. So this section was added less than an hour after I'm shot. And that's what I was talking about, the XREF, okay? And I have a video called 22 Seconds on it, and there was 3 different police reports that had this XREF, and based on the second stamp on it, I could tell they were done within 22 seconds, you know? And that's what I explained a while ago. I just don't believe that any officer could go through and read these entire police reports and then make these reference comments unless they had it pre-planned. And then and you know, and that would make sense, that because I was told a document trail was being created on me. I think this is the document trail. It is going, oh yeah, he died by accident. See, we got a reference to a gun, you know, and just like Mike Lawhon. Oh yeah, we arrested him for drugs, you know. I mean, they were creating creating a document trail, and so I want to show you that police report and show you definitely the names there, because legitimate law enforcement should be investigating Blake Bush, Trent Sellers, and find out, about this baggie of pot and threaten crime victims and etc. Okay. At the protective order here in 2013, this is part of the transcript. Stacey Jewett was the ADA, the assistant district attorney, and do you believe that Mrs. Whatever, or whether or not her daughter was a prostitute? Now remember, I'm asked this question. Well, the doctor told her while I'm sitting there, okay? And of course I was a good husband, and trying to help her or whatever. And I'm explaining, no, the doctor said that she felt guilty for getting her, and then I was going to tell the story. The doctor said that, remember the time you felt guilty for getting your child involved in prostitution, and that other time you tried to commit suicide, and object, Your Honor, no, stop it. We don't want the truth to come out, we sure don't want, the ADA does not want the truth to come out, stop. And of course the judge going, stop, okay, yep, now we don't want the truth to come out in court, And so the secret police, here they are, they were secret, these pictures. The first two showed up, they were caught on video, okay? They were Mike Naylor and John Woodward, which is from a different county. First person to show up my house was a sheriff from a different county. Nobody's ever explained that. Now, I just called out, survived a premeditated murder attempt, but ambushed and shot with my phone lines cut, and a sheriff from a different county comes up. I've got a video on this, okay? It's on my YouTube channel. And then neither one of these guys' names is on the police report that I just got this year that was illegally withheld for 7 years. The second one is Sheriff Deputy Mike Naylor, and he died in 2014. These 9 were caught inside my home, and the only reason I know their names is because I offered a reward. First time in the history of America, a crime victim offered a reward to identify police, And you look up here, and Michael Glick and Mark Gilliam, let's see, it's hard to read these names here. They're over here, though. Greg Nelson, Marty Barrett, Chad Simpson, Mike Naylor, Michael Glick, John Woodward, Rosa Rodriguez, April Chandler. I'm going to show you these names. Tony Dickey, okay. And you're going to see them, okay? This is actually just copy and pasted from a text message. That's from a private investigator that collected a $2,000 reward. Now, like I said, this is unprecedented, unheard of. Should be a national, international news story. But the press has been actively involved in covering up these crimes, And, I don't know, $1 million underground facility, oil show parties, maybe some wealthy, rich, famous people were there, and they're getting paid off, But I tell you what, our press is actually covering it up. And I have plenty of proof of that, that the press is hiding that, and it's a danger to the public safety. I just come downtown. I moved into town with hope and excitement, spent my life savings on a home, and it's been a nightmare. It won't stop, and just a massive corruption. And so this here on the left-hand side was the secret police identified by Empire Private Investigations, okay? And it's showing you that 2 of them are no longer alive, and neither one of their names was on the police report. Because over here's the police report that I just got this year, okay? The ones in red are the same ones identified that were caught on camera. April Chandler, Greg Chatwell, Marty Barrett, who's the crime scene investigator, okay? Now, let that sink in. If a crime scene investigator has been tampering with evidence in a murder attempt, you think he did it once, you think he did it again, or you think he did it 100 times? Should we go back and look at every case that every one of these secret police have ever worked on and have retrials and let murderers out of prison, etc.? You see how big this is, okay? And of course, once again, the press is hiding it from the public, because it's real possible that somebody innocent is sitting in jail and they were framed by dirty cops, that wanted to break in their house and steal from them or whatever, part of this human trafficking ring. Dylan Hale, Joe Ramirez, Kenny Angel, Matt Davis. And these are the ones that were not identified by the private investigator. And you're going to see here in a minute. Okay, this is the big police report, and it just takes too long to go through this whole thing. But you can see some of the big names, Matt Davis. The one thing I want to show you here is it shows, if I can find it, is one Matt Davis called my that shows when my front security cameras were disabled, and we'll see here that Matt Davis tried to call the ex-wife within about an hour after I'm shot. So the question is if Matt Davis, Sergeant Matt Davis, knew my ex-wife and he was connected with this document. And I believe maybe he's the one that did the XREF comments on what I was talking about in the 22 seconds. And also, he quit the police force after 12 years during the month of protective order here, and so the timing was real interesting. I'm thinking the reason he quit is because of that document that came out where the ex-boyfriend said the ex-wife was, he believes she had a lot to do with the shooting, and she threatened to have him killed too. Okay, I parsed the long police report, and basically I just pulled out these timestamps of Matt Davis, Tony Dickey, Greg Chatwell, Kenny Angel, and Dylan Hale. They were, and out here in blue, here and at the top, is when Woodward and Naylor showed up at my house, seen on camera. And right here is when the cameras were disabled. And so what it shows here is these 5 police officers were at or in my home, but they wasn't seen showing up on camera. Okay? Well, how can that be? Well, that's, they obviously come from under my home, from where I was shot. The ex-wife told me there was a trap door there. Ricky Ronaldo said when he lived in this house, he used to go in the tunnels underneath the house. So these 5 police officers were under my house, and then that makes them the prime suspects for the would-be killers. That, and that's probably why the police report was hid for 6 years, and they've stopped free press in America, is because you got 5 police officers that might be looking at life in prison if they were under my home and had shot me by surprise. After here I'm reporting crime. I'm the crime victim under a home invasion, and and there's a burglar trapped in my bathroom. I didn't know that, and that's what it's believed, that maybe they were shot me to free the burglar who was in the commission of a felony. And so anyway, there's the evidence showing that. I mean, that's the deal. Okay, I'm gonna talk briefly about Mike Lawhon. The day that I looked at this house in 2008, there's my realtor Janine Pruitt. I took pictures as I walked through, and this is the back door, and that's actually also where I was shot, right there, about where she was standing where I shot. But you see the back door is fine. Okay, but 28 days later, when I met Perkins Brazier here, the home inspector, this is the inspection report. Okay, there's a hole in the laundry room door. Okay, so basically, on the 1st of October 1st, 2008, this door's fine. October 28th, there's a hole there. It's been kicked in. Somebody brute force entered here from that door. And on the 12th was when Mike Lawhon died. And I'm suspecting that whoever murdered Mike Lawhon kicked that door in. Okay. And so that was only just one piece of evidence. And then you can do this yourself if you'll just go to Google and Google for Odessa American William Michael Don Lawhon obituary, and you'll see that there was 2 different death notices. First one was posted on October 14th saying Mike died in Fort Worth. And the second one was posted on the 18th saying he died at his residence. So somebody changed the location of death, okay, and reposted a revised death notice for Mike Lawhon. Okay, now that's real important because his death certificate says he died in Fort Worth, but the neighbor lived across the street told me twice that Mike died in this house. So I'm 100% convinced that he died here. He was murdered here, taken to Fort Worth, and then the home was sold to the next sucker. That would be me, okay? And so, interestingly, I found a Kansas City Chiefs cap underneath the cabinet from where I was shot. Okay, and I spoke with Mike Lawhon's sister, Susan McGain, on the phone. She called me, and she had seen that, and she tells me that the brother of Mike Lawhon, Brian Tennis, here in Midland, that he's a big Kansas City Chiefs fan. She just offered that information up, and I took it as a clue that maybe Brian Tennis knows something about, this home being rigged, Mike Lawhon's death, and maybe the murder attempt on my life. And finally, he talks to me on Messenger, and he says, Susan does not know what she's talking about. My brother, which is Mike Lawhon, choked his ex-wife with a rifle and then had to be taken down by me. Okay, so there was some kind of confrontation between Brian Tennis and Mike Lawhon before Mike died, and earlier this year, I went to the City of Midland's public records request and tried to get information for Mike Lawhon, right? Had the police been called to this house before for burglaries? Was there a gunshot fired here? You know, who was the arresting officer for Lawhon? Was he arrested for drugs, etc.? This is important information. I was denied that access, okay? And they said, nope, you can't have that. And as far as I'm concerned, it's because of a cover-up. This last line here is kind of the timeline here, the big timeline. Rini Escobar Sanchez goes missing July 12th, 2008 from Odessa, Texas. And, you know, and there's a story on that, on the death smell and the buried clothes. And that's 3 months before Mike Lawhon died, okay? So that's a suspected murder, okay? Mike Lawhon dies right here. Married to Sarah Buchanan, had 2 sons, and he was only 27 years old, okay? And there's some of the names: Susan McGannis, Brian Tennis, okay? I tell you what, this Barbara Pickering, she wrote me this hate-filled message one day. I got a copy of that too, and so I suspect that she knows something about the crimes here as well. You know, the problem is finding legitimate law enforcement to follow up and do the investigations here, okay? And then the 2010 Show party, my friend told me a young girl was murdered, and I believe it happened in an underground facility that are said to be by this house. And in 2013, the remains of a young girl were found outside of Midland. So it makes sense that the remains were determined that to be of a woman between 14 and 21 years old. And I'm suspecting that this remains go to the girl from the 2010 Show party that was murdered because she refused to prostitute. And that probably happened in that underground facility in my backyard that Google Maps is showing is there. This is my mom's death, okay? December 7th. 2011, you know, what, 5-6 weeks before I'm ambushed and shot. Unanswered question. I found out I was lied to about what happened. 2 days before she died, the sheriff over there, Rod Kaufman, died. That's another, you know, suspicious death. You know, I wondered if that wasn't another murder tied to the crime ring, you know. Matthew Don Hyman, landman, attorney, 33 years old. He dies on January 14, 2012. That's the end of a surprise heart failure. And that's the same day that I had a home invasion. I put electricity on my doorknob. I later that's how I found his obituary. I went looking to see if somebody died on the day that I put, electricity on my doorknob, you know. And then I figure out, oh, this guy was a landman. Well, landman or some of my, and then he become an attorney. And then I remember my attorney saying, there's not a lawyer in this town is going to help you. And I thought, what? You know, I'm the ultimate victim, got all this evidence. Why won't a lawyer help me? Well, maybe a lawyer was killed in my hallway trying to break into my bedroom, you know. And then so I posted this and asked questions. And his sister-in-law tells me, like, how'd he die? You know, if he, died of car wreck, wasn't him? Oh, no, I had a heart failure. You know, I asked, was he messing with electricity that day? You know, what time did he die? If he died in the morning, wasn't him? Oh, no, he died at the exact same time that you put electricity on the door, you know. And the other thing here, I was threatened by 2 of his friends. They were desperate. Brian Hillman and Chris Mertz, who worked for my company, both landman, and they were desperate to stop me from asking if Matt Hyman died in my home. I have a video on that. Okay, Don Calloway died. This is my former father-in-law. It's my granddad. It's the granddad of my son. Okay, and he dies on January 5th, 2012. This is all in this time frame, you know. It's like mom died, boom, 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 then I'm shot, okay? But what happened, my son was here, and my son comes down. He's like, we're going to get to the bottom of this, Dad, and, and I'm like, thank God I finally got family helping me, And then he ain't here 24 hours, and his granddad dies, and that was highly suspicious. Interesting, Don and Ann built the home that I lived in Hobbs, and there's been question if that home was rigged. Over in Hobbs, and because I have reason to believe the crime started before I moved here. Who was the guy shot on January 17th? Remember that? Boom, boom, boom. Here we are. And that's based on this radiological report. See, radiological consultation. Okay. And it's done by Dr. Hinton. Okay. And you can see the date. This is April 2012, and I'm shot in January 2012. Gunshot wound and injury. He compares x-rays from 117 to other ones taken on 119. but I was shot on the 28th. So he wasn't looking at my x-rays. It wasn't a typo, right? There's two different dates. So I believe somebody else was shot in the foot with a shotgun on this date, on 1/17/12. And maybe, and they use this guy's x-rays to fake mine. Remember, I have triple proof of my x-rays being fake. That guy is missing his heel bone. And then, of course, they took me into surgery. They faked x-rays, took me into surgery, and cut my heel bone out. And so I'm suspecting this guy, it owns the foot in the faked x-rays, and the reason they cut off my heel bone and crippled me for life was because this guy was missing a heel bone. And it was really done to cover up, the murder attempt on my life. And some people have wondered, why didn't you just call for help? The reason is they cut my phone lines. I had no communication. My cell phone was stolen. My phone lines cut. Shot me. I'm supposed to die. They shot me in point blank range, directly in an artery, right, from under my home. Okay, and you see the timestamp on it here, and then minutes later, the sheriff from a different county shows up, right? Never been explained, and the press is not even telling the public about that, And this is from the nurse's notes at 11:27, less than an hour after I'm shot. And the patient stated, "My neighbors are breaking into my house. There are sirens going off. I have towel wire around the cabinets. In closet, there's a voice recorder recording what's happening. I have cameras. My neighbors have built a tunnel from their house to my house. They're stealing my stuff. The alarms kept going off. I was tie wiring my doors to keep them out." Okay, and evidence was found. It looks like I trapped one of these burglars, these home intruders, in my guest bathroom. And speculation that there was a big party going on underground at the time. That there were some corrupt police there, and these police decided to murder me. Very possibly that it was pre-planned because of the document trail. That my murder was planned, 39 days in advance. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.